Okay, here we go. Oh, turn that off. Okay, I think it's going. Looks good, looks good. Let's just see if it's working. I think it is working. Yep, it's time for the weekly download. It's time to learn about stuff
Looks good,
and
looks
music
good.
producing. Oh yeah. Okay, everybody. Here we are. Yes, welcome to the weekly download. It's fun. It's weekly. It's a download where you can learn about all kinds of useful music production things. So today on the weekly download, we are going to address a very common problem that I encounter with a lot of my students, and that is getting things to sit on top of the mix, right? So basically, you got to understand that in most people, they hear music where there's two instruments. There's the vocal and there's everything else, right? So let's say you're mixing like a pop record. You want to make sure that that vocal is big and loud and it's taking up the whole frequency range, the whole stereo spectrum, and it's like, it's dominating the mix. It's sitting on top of the mix, right? But this sort of a thing, it's like when you're making electronic music too, you also need to have one instrument that is serving as basically the vocal, so you think about it as there's one instrument that is the lead, and then the rest of the instruments are serving as the accompaniment, right? And when you're making these lead instruments and trying to get them to like sit on top of the mix, the lead, you're not going to get that phenomenon where you're perceiving the lead as the lead and everything else as the accompaniment unless you're making it really sit on top of the mix. Okay, so I made this project file here, and I've made this lead. This is like an old. This kind of ties into what I was talking about last week with chord progressions and things. But this is just a project that I made a while ago when I was showing one of my students how to make chords. So I'm going to include this project file for everybody who is a weekly downloader. And you can see I used some of the chord progression tricks from last week to make these cool chords and things for this. So there's these MIDI files. That ties into last week. But this is just a super basic demo song that I made to just show show how this all works. So we've sampled the chords, we sampled the chord progression here. Right? And on top of the chords, there's this lead. Now, I made this lead mono to just like make it kind of not stand out in the mix, to illustrate the problem that a lot of people have. Okay, so the problem that a lot of people have is their leads will not be sitting on top of the mix. So like, let's say you're making a trap song and you got some like bell noise that needs to be the main thing in the song. If it's not sitting right up front and in your face in the mix, your track's it's not going to come off right. It's not going to come off it's all going to come off as accompaniment, and there's not going to be a lead there, right? So this is kind of what that would sound like. So this is the melody all mono and not sitting on top of the mix, okay? So it's not working here. That lead needs to sound like in front of everything, okay? So how you do that, here, I'm just going to close these up. But how you do that, right, there's a few different ways you can do it. But we're going to do a combination of two different things to make this sit in front of the mix. We're going to use a stereo delay, right, to create a kind of spatializing reverb-like effect without adding reverb. Because the thing is, if you add lots of reverb, right, things get pushed far away. Like, you know, you hear more reverb from in the real world from sounds that are far away. Like, if I'm talking into the mic really close, you're not going to hear a lot of reverb. But if I go far away like this, then you're going to hear lots of reverb coming from the walls, and it's going to be all reverby, right? Whereas sounds that are up close like this, they have much less reverb. You'll also notice that there is much more high and low frequencies on the microphone when I talk into it very closely. Versus here, if I talk from far away, the microphone has far less high and low frequencies and far more reverb, right? So if you want things to sound up front, you have to make sure that they have all of their high and low frequencies are very, there's activity in those frequency ranges. And then also you're going to want to make sure that it doesn't have too much reverb or chorus or phaser that's drowning it out. So the problem is, though, is like, how do you get the sound to be really wide and like kind of cartoonishly exaggerated stereo image without drowning it in reverb and chorus and stuff? Okay, well, here's what you do. We're going to use a stereo delay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a parallel processing rack here. Okay, so to do parallel processing, you bring in an audio effect rack, you make one chain and call it dry, and then you make another chain and you call it whatever your effect is, in this case delay. Okay, so I'm going to call this stereo delays. Okay, so this dry chain, we're not going to put anything on it, but on the other one, we are going to put a EQ8, which is going to allow us to take the very highs and the very lows out. Pretty much every effect, like reverb and delays, they often sound a little bit better if you take the very high and the very low out of the spatialization. Because remember, as I was illustrating before, when I talk very closely to the mic, you can hear the very, very highs, and then you can also hear the bass in my voice. And then, oh my God, Mizu, go get it, who's at the door? But then you can see where I talk like this, you know, far away, there's less high frequency and low frequency in my voice and less presence, right? So, thanks, Carrie-chan. Making lots of hearts fly across the screen on Facebook. Very cute. So anyway, when you're doing effects like delay and reverb, you want to take the very high and the very low frequencies out. That's called the Abbey Road EQ. So I'm going to put a little Abbey Road EQ, and then I'm going to get my simple delay out here, okay? And this simple delay here, Evan asked if I have a dog. No, I'm dog sitting. We have a dog that we're deeply in love with that is our friend's dog that we dog sit a lot. Oh, wow, look at all those flying hearts. This is great. Okay, so now I want to create these stereo delays. So here, these delays are on the left and the right, right? So they've had the high and the low knocked out of them, and they're going to be, here, I'll just solo this, and they're going to be on the left and the right speakers respectively. So you might, I'm not sure if Facebook is stereo audio. I hope it's stereo audio, but anyway, the left and the right, we're going to add small delays, and I want to add really, really short delays. So I'm going to take these off of sync, right? And now you can offset, when the feedback is all the way down, it's just a one-tap delay. So it's not going echo, echo, echo. It's just going echo, echo, right? So it's just one of them. And then because it's all the way wet, we're just going to hear one tap on each side. So it's going to be one reflection off of each side. Okay? So now I'm going to go here and I'm going to get out a delay calculator. You can get a delay calculator by just typing in delay calculator into Google, and then there's a ton of them, and you'll get one. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the delay calculator, and we are at 120 beats per minute. So I'm going to calculate my delay and reverb times. Okay, so I got 1/64th and then 1/64th triplet. Those are the times I'm going to use in left and right. Because this stuff, it sounds a lot better when you use the sync delay. Even though we're going for like a really short kind of reverb-like effect, it's going to sound a lot better with a sync delay. So I'm going to go 31.25 in the left, and then the right is going to be a 64 triplet, so it's 20.83. So 20.83. Okay, so now I'm going to solo this, and we can hear going from no delay to delay. Now it's going to split the sequence, the delays are going to hit. It's called the Haas effect, where you get one delay is going to hit you at a slightly different time than another delay. Right? So wide, narrow, wide, narrow, wide. So now I want to put this at about -6 dB compared to the other one. Okay, and then so you don't really notice this effect in the mix. It just opens things up and makes it sit on top of the mix without drowning it in reverb. So check it out. So this is it with the stereo delay on, and then off. Right, really just opens it right up. On, off, on, off. So now let's hear it in the mix, okay? So this is it with it on, and then off. You see how it falls back into the mix? It sounds all flat now. Now I'm gonna open it back up. Right? So that's one thing that you can do to make it sit on top of the mix. Now another thing that you can do to make it sit on top of the mix is what's called parallel compression, and this works especially well on vocals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another wet dry rack here. So then make a dry chain. It's called dry, and I'm going to call this parallel comp. Okay. Okay, so then this parallel compressor, this is going to squash it really hard, okay, and then put it quietly. So I'm going to solo the parallel comp, all right. I want to just over compress this really bad. Right, so now I want to compress that really hard, and that's going to bring up just the reverb tails. And now if I bring this up, actually I'm going to take a couple dB out of this to make room for the compressor. Oh wait, here, I'll collapse this one so you can see what I'm doing. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so this parallel comp, I made a dry chain and then a wet chain with a compressor, and then I squashed the hell out of it with the compressor. So I've turned the ratio way up, turned the threshold way down, and then I've turned the attack up too, because I don't want to crush the transients too bad. But you see, this is a very extremely... And then you can mess around with peak or RMS. It sounds differently depending on what you do. See, this is... Yeah, this is probably more of the effect that I'm looking for. Okay, so now I'm going to mix this slowly in. Right, so it's bringing up just the, it's not ruining the transients because I've taken the attack off the transients. And then I'm mixing it in just quiet. And it's just bringing the tails up. So now, I'm going to key learn these to the number 2 key so that we can A-B, and let's hear it in the mix. Okay, so this is without those effects, or this is with those effects. so do stereo delays and then a compressor. But now we got a problem here because the compressor is the stereo delays. Like sometimes it's better to put the stereo delays before the compressor, so you can change the order. Because the stereo delays, like the compressor is triggered mono. There's no split for the left and right. If you do want to split the left and right, you can do this. So I'm going to duplicate. Now I'm going to take a utility, and I'm going to put the utility so that this only receives the left channel, and then that's panned hard left. And then this utility is only going to go on the right channel. Oops, let's see, this one goes there. So that's hard left. And then this utility is going to make it take only the right channel and then be panned. Oops. Do that. And then that's going to go hard right. So now this is a stereo parallel compressor. Okay? So this is only taking the left channel and going only out the left channel. This is only taking the right channel, only going out the right channel. So now if I put that after the stereo delays, then it's not going to lose the stereo effect of the delay. That way to have a stereo compressor. So if you do want to put the compressor after, set it and then make it stereo like I just did. So, and to make it stereo, you put a utility before the compressor, tell it to take only from the left, and then pan it hard left, and then on the other channel put it only from the right and pan it hard right, and then you won't lose the stereo of your stereo delay. You know, because it'll be slightly less stereo if you have a mono compressor. But the parallel compressor is not, like, it's not you know, you can do it both ways. It just depends on how wide you want it to be. It'll sound a little more wide if you use a stereo compressor. But yeah, so once again, taking this mono synth lead over top of the chords and everything, and here I'll play it in the drop section, and then I'll take it away. And the idea is to be pretty subtle with this. So the stereo delays and the compressor, the parallel compressor, you know, you don't want to blow the sound out too much. You want a really dry sound that's wide and in your face, right? Because you can make a stereo sound with reverbs and everything, but we're trying to make a dry sound that is still very stereo and very in your face. So stereo delays first in the chain here, so you make a dry sound, and then delays, put Abbey Road EQ, as you can see here, Abbey Road EQ, which is the top and bottom, followed by stereo delay, and those were set with a delay calculator to 1/64th in the left ear and 1/64th triplet in the right ear, and those times are entered in milliseconds because you can't enter those delay times in the sync values, right? So stereo delay first, then after that, parallel compression, so dry chain and then the wet chain, and you squash it really hard and then mix the compressed signal up into the uncompressed dry signal, and that's going to really kind of bring up the tails and squash it without ruining the dynamics because it's parallel compression. This is especially good for vocals. And then if you are doing it, if you want to preserve the stereo, make a left and right split on your compressor, and you do that by selecting just the left on the utility and panning that channel to the left, and then selecting just the right on the utility and panning that channel to the right. And then you have a stereo delay leading into a stereo parallel compressor. Okay? So before, this is like with it on, and then I'll take it off. Now watch, if I take it off, it just disappears into the mix. Like that sounds so flat now. If you look at the VU meter, it's not any louder, it's just wider and more compressed. Yeah, so it just spatializes the sounds and gets them up in the front of the mix. Okay, so that is the weekly download this week. Here, I'm going to play it all the way from the beginning because there's a couple requests to do that. Yeah, and then you can listen to it all the way from the beginning. This project file is going to be in the weekly download. I am not particularly attached to this track, so if any of you would like to finish this track, feel free to finish it. This is just a kind of demo project that I made for a lesson a while ago. But yeah, so here's the track. that is how you pop sounds to the front of the mix using stereo delays and parallel compression. The project file for this track is going to be available on Patreon and on my producerdj.club website. I'm currently in the process of moving everybody over from Patreon, but Patreon is still the best way to just get the weekly download if you just want the weekly download. But yeah, if you sign up there, it is $5 a week, billed monthly, aka $20 a month, and that gets you access to my stream videos as well as the weekly download and guest list for parties if I have enough spots, and a bunch of other good stuff, because I really appreciate the people who support what I do, whether it is on Patreon or at the producerdj.club URL. If you want to get training and everything, go to www.producerdj.club. And if you just want to support my music or get my discography or help me out, check out patreon.com/illgates. These videos are free if you can catch them live, but after they're done live, they are gone. So you got to go to Patreon or the Producer DJ Club. Evan asked, yes, the guest list comes with the Producer DJ. Yeah, if you are a member of the Producer DJ Club, you get to come hang out in the green room and bring a friend and stuff if I have enough spots. Last weekend, actually, had Tesco and Matter up on stage with me in Detroit, and we had an after party in the green room with them and their girlfriends and stuff, and it was really fun. So, yeah, I really do try to make it worth it. So if you want this project folder and everything, check out patreon.com/illgates. That gets you access to the weekly download. And if you want like the full shebang, go to www.producerdj.club, and that's where you get the training and unlimited feedback and everything. And I'm starting a label for all the ACE students. So Gateway Records. If you want to get on Gateway Records, that's the gateway. So www.producerdj.club. And if you just want the weekly download and this project folder, hit up the Patreon. All right. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I got to split. I got to find a new place to live. Peace out.